we had this all hands. I put on my headphones, camera off like everybody else, and I went to the garden and did some leaf blowing and
That's
Yeah.
wait. Why do you have 4 API management tools? They were like, oh, because the first one didn't solve the problem. And I was like, wait, what?
if you wipe code a service and you don't know how it works and what it does, then it's actually legacy from the start.
Personally, I will drop the customer because in the end, they will come back.
And we're live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I know it has been a while, but we are back and we're back to our regular scheduling posts of The Good Thing. Today, what better way to start our welcome back than have a special guest today? Thank you so much for joining us. We have Daniel Kocot, a principal API consultant at Codecentric. So today we're going to talk all things APIs. But Daniel, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. Yeah, I'm quite relaxed because it's Friday, as we had it earlier. So
That's awesome.
Nothing to really think about. So having closing the week and looking for next week, because next week I'm traveling some things around. So this might become very interesting.
Okay, very cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us. A little background on Daniel is that he's the principal API consultant and head of API consulting at Codecentric. He has a deep background in APIs and application lifestyle management. He also serves as an advocate and ambassador for team topologies and async API. You started your career right at Codecentric in 2016 as an agile solutions consultant. Since then, you've done 4 different roles until you're at your current position in 2022, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, awesome. So we have a lot of topics to discuss today.
Stefan,
Jens
I'm
hasn't.
awesome,
Yeah, I was gonna say Jens hasn't said anything. So Jens, how are you doing today?
Yeah, you were only talking about our special guest.
He
By the
gets
way,
jealous sometimes.
we never had a break. You had a break, but the show went on. We had a great show last time with amazing people.
Yeah, it's true, but I wasn't there. I didn't bring the energy, but I'm back now, guys. Nobody worry. But Jens, how are you doing
Life is
today?
not just centered around you, Stefan.
Well, in my world, it is.
But
how
by
are
the way,
you, Jens?
whose chair is completely broken? Is it Daniel's?
Oh, I'm standing.
You're
It might be
standing.
me then. Hold up.
Yeah.
Is that me?
Is that the chair or is it your bones?
That's a good point. I need to get a new chair. Okay, I'm gonna try to stand very still so we don't hear it at all. So hold up. But Jens, how are you doing?
Jacob is on the stream. You know, like today, Jacob has vacation, or not sure what he's doing, but he can't let go of us. Today we have Brandon in the background. He's responsible for clicking the button to start and stop the stream. So thank you, Brandon, for taking that responsibility. Okay, we have Daniel today here. This is cool. Daniel and we actually know each other in person. We met many years ago in, I think it was Sweden. It was, where was it again?
Platform Summit, I think.
Platform Summit, yes.
Yeah.
2 years or something like that. So
yeah.
It was a while ago. Do you remember, Jens? I think 2023 maybe?
Did you go as well, Stefan?
No, but I remember you had to go because we got like a last minute conference talk. So I think that's when it was 2023.
Yeah. We did a talk.
and then it's only 2 years. So
yeah, awesome. And Daniel, you mentioned you will be traveling. I just saw a picture from Eric Wilde, who's currently at some conferences. I think there's some, what is it? API World is going on currently.
Yeah.
And what are your plans for next week?
Customers.
Visiting
okay. Customers. So being a consultant, it's the normal way to not be remote all the time. So really talk with customers.
You need to say it with more enthusiasm.
Customers. It's not. No, it's. I will give a talk at a customer on site. So it's a more relaxed thing, and then we have several days with another customer, really deeping into integration platforms and doing the stuff. We may be hit later, so this is what really strikes me at the moment.
Fantastic. Awesome. And Jens, we were just talking about this. Yesterday, we took out some of our customers to lunch, and me and Jens were strategizing. We're like, going forward into 2026, we need to go. Oh, just kidding. Can't tell you guys. But basically, we might be around your neck of the woods, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. No, there's a like in this I don't know, like Daniel, we're a vendor, you're a consultant, so it's also interesting to see a different perspective in the market. But we started our company after or right in the middle of COVID, and so it was kind of like the normal thing to not visit people, and it can be a huge downside. Like you can build relationships in a different way if you meet people. And I guess if you're doing consulting in the API segment, it's probably much easier to do like a webinar or something on site versus doing that virtually, and you can't really meet people. And how do you think from a consulting perspective about being remote versus being on site?
Being remote is good when you have these deep type of tasks. So you really know what you have to do, because you have to write a concept, you have to go very deep discussions with other people, where it's just fair enough to be using Teams or whatever, or Zoom or Google Meet, whatever is in place there. But really to have conversations about problems, challenges, whatever, it's really important to be on site, because sometimes you met somebody on accident. It was not planned to meet there, so you meet people you don't normally have meetings with, because with this remote thing you always have to set up a meeting. It's, to be honest, it's quite boring to really ask, how do you have some time for a coffee, and we can do it virtually. When you are really working remote in different city and different countries, we have this with customers, it's totally fine, because it's not the other way possible. But being on site at a customer and talking with the people there, it's for me, it's a booster to really go more into the project again, because before COVID, you were always on site. It was the normal thing to be on site, and not to say, okay, I work from home or I work from the office and do the stuff remotely. It was really like, be there, listen to the people, have lunch. If you stay overnight, have a dinner together or something like this. It's sometimes a new experience for some people. So because most of them are still, I don't go to the office. It's not worth. But in the end, it's more, or for me, the results are better when you work with people on site, because you have them there. They can't leave. You can book a room for a whole day. It sounds funny, but when you have remote meetings, I can switch the camera off. Sometimes we work with customers that don't even have the camera on all the time, so you don't see what they're really doing. So if you give trainings or do enablements with customers, it's actually quite hard, because you don't know who's really listening, and so on and so on. And even if you have workshops or deep sessions, it's sometimes better to do it really on site. So that's why you have to travel, because it's consultancy. So it's not sitting in somewhere as you maybe do it when you do more the product work. You can stay at home and be remote all the time if you would like to do so. For the consultancy, it's important to be there where actually the people are.
I would add to
Stefan,
that.
Do you remember? So we have an angel investor from Meta Facebook, and once we went to San Francisco, we visited the office, and like not talking about Facebook, like it's not like, doesn't matter what you think about them, but what I found interesting is the whole environment at Meta, like the campus, it enables you to run into random people and to be like, hey, what are you working on? Well, what product are you doing? And you can build those connections online. They would never actually happen, because you cannot run into people. And
no,
So it's.
I want to add to that though, Jens. Every time we do a retreat and we're like doing stuff with strategy or anything, and we're in person, Jens always says, "Guys, laptops down." And it's the same thing when we visit customers. Is we put the laptops down, and you can see people are engaged. But when someone doesn't have the camera on and you're consulting with them, the worst is camera's off. Okay, and then you go through it, you tell them how to set up Cosmo or whatever. Not even a week later in the Slack, hey, how do you set this up? And it's like, we went over that in the meeting. So I'm 100% with you. I like it much better. Also, you do a little bit of work. After work, you go get a beer, you get to know this person. And now it's not just a consultant from another company. It's Daniel, who I had a beer with. And I know that he's traveling and I know his hobbies. So that way, when I ask a question or something's broken, I'm not yelling at Daniel. I'm saying, hey, Daniel, could you help me out? Because we've built that relationship. But I would say you've kind of nailed it on the head there.
Yeah, that's actually the thing around. So to really get into conversations with people maybe outside of the whole topic is also quite important to really have some kind of bonding or something there to really see if you can really work together. Because when you do projects, we are doing stuff in the bigger enterprises, there's always politics. You really have to know people good.
Yes.
Know what games are being played and so on and so on. So it's that kind of thing also. And the more you are related to a person, it's so easy. Within COVID, it was sometimes quite hard because you have this 2D people faces up front, but you don't really see what is happening with them. And sometimes they just drop off the camera and then say, yeah, I'm angry about this and that, and you can't really see the face and anything like that, the real reaction. So it's really, for me, it's absolutely the max, the minimum to be with a customer from nearly one time in a quarter to really see what is happening on site. How are the people feeling about the things that happened over the period of time, and so on and so on. So this is mostly important because remote work and consulting, so not just do the programming stuff, so really bringing architectures to work and so on and so on. You need these conversations.
You remind me of an all hands, like before WunderGraph at another company. So my office is direct. I can look into our garden straight, and we had this all hands. I put on my headphones, and then camera off like everybody else, and I went to the garden and did some leaf blowing, and that's
yeah.
I have to say I have a high quality leaf blower from Makita, which has it's battery driven. It has 2 batteries. It's extremely powerful. The batteries only last 30 minutes, but it's a lot of fun and it has a lot of power.
Yeah,
you know, as someone who works in tech, doing some gardening or some leaf blowing, or like, you know, we have pumpkins in the garden and we have tomatoes and stuff. And gardening is fun. It's something where you put the phone to the side for a moment and just cut the hedge or do whatever.
My favorite there, though, you know, the memes where it's like you're at your stand up in a remote company and it's like, here we go. You've been preparing all day, doing the exercises, and then you unmute. Nothing from my end. Thanks. Boom. Done day.
Okay, Daniel, let's take a step back.
Yeah.
You're a consultant. You're in the API space. For a lot of people, the API space couldn't be more boring. How did you get into that space, and what kept you there?
Long story short, when you do Atlassian consulting and you are not living in the green field, you have to integrate. So you see a lot of not the best APIs in the world. And you think about, okay, how we can make this actually better, and why are people not really understanding the needs of the other side to really go into this? This is how it actually started, because I started as an Atlassian consultant at Codecentric. up front, I was doing technical product development and so on. So really the groundwork to really have the development skills and so on and so on. And then happened something. I was in a MuleSoft project. So doing plumbing and understanding why people don't really understand what's it all about with APIs actually. At some level, you see what is actually happening when you see posts from Kin Lane at that time and others. And then I read a book about API economy and so on and on. And then it was clear for me, okay, there is something more. Then I did a little exercise doing consultancy at Codecentric for a period of time within COVID, but it didn't really reflect. So we ended up in doing real consultancy with no tooling in the background. So really do this API thinking stuff we have here, or think about this capability thinking I published this week. And it's really about bringing disciplines together. So looking at architectures, looking at people. So that's why I'm also doing a lot of in the team topologies environment. So it's really a lot of things that come together, because in the end, the tooling or the technology is not the problem. The problems or the challenges are the people involved into this. And this is what we are heavily triggering. It was a long process to really get there, because you have to do big projects that maybe fail or not work as expected to really get there and see, okay, what's the benefit? And then maybe you have possibilities to find customers that had the same in the past and want to do it better. And with this, we go into the scene, like having the idea of APIs or products, doing this thinking stuff, to be more on the scene, to really understand what the consumers want to have. And this is actually the story. It's a long process.
So APIs is a people problem.
Yeah, definitely. It's not a problem.
It's not about REST. It's not about SOAP. It's not about GraphQL. It's about people.
Definitely, and the skills.
But that sounds a bit abstract. Like, you can't just blame it on the people, right?
No, it's actually the one of the biggest problems is these little tutorials you find all over.
Yeah.
How to create a REST API with Spring. Technology. It should be possible. If this framework is not capable of creating REST APIs, you can't use it really. And all the other stuff involved there. So you see a lot of fast API stuff when you go on the Python scene. So it's always tech related. The problem is then the abstraction layer. So having a tutorial is something different than do it in the wild. Because you have a tutorial, it's really, really abstract. So it's not clear how you deal with the data. And normally when you do such tutorials, it's like, oh, just go into the database and drop out this table to be a REST API. That's nice, but it's not efficient in the end. So it's really also about to really think, okay, what is really needed to create a good environment or a good experience for the users to really think about. And this is where it's lacking, because people didn't understand in the past what REST means. They heard somewhere that SOAP is bad. Maybe it isn't bad. For some use cases, it might be helpful. Then they heard other things. So it's really always on technology side. But the understanding is still missing, because when you ask, have you ever read a book about enterprise integration patterns? Most of the people leave the fingers down.
Yeah.
If I'm in the integration space, I have to really read and understand the basic literature. So if I don't get these enterprise integration patterns, or I really understand what I would like to do, it's quite hard. So it's somehow a people problem, it's an enablement problem, because when people are used to build APIs, they do it as their normal development routine. But they don't really think about if there's a strategy, so they don't ask maybe questions, and they don't really understand where the company or the organization wants to go with that. They just have these features. Oh, they want an API that delivers customer data. But there's nobody questioning it, why they want to have it. And what is the impact of this? Is it going outside of the organization? Is it going outside of the department and being inside the organization? And so on and so on. A lot of questions aren't asked. And this is the people problem there. So it's not just saying, it's a people problem. It's really the understanding, what should I do there? Because technically, everything is actually solved. I have different styles to get the data there. I have different patterns to get what I actually want. But there is what is really missing is the connection in between. Because normally nobody talks to the business side, and this is also something which is really hard in the end.
Oh, well said. Jens, I have one question, but I want to pass it to you first. Do you have a question based on what Daniel said already?
We have a question from David.
Yeah, that's the one I wanted to bring up.
I would love to go through the flow, like what is, because you mentioned like a bunch of topics like patterns. So maybe we can talk about what are good patterns or principles everybody should know. Like you talk about the important books. Maybe there's some standard literature we should all look into. And then in general, how can an organization like think strategically about APIs and what I hear when I listen, I kind of hear that developers often jump the gun. You say, here's a problem. They build a REST API. They haven't even thought about this API in a more broader sense. So I think that's one thing you say. But here we have a question from David. Question for Daniel. How do you navigate consultancy when the customer thinks they know better or refuse to listen to advice?
There are different answers to the question, actually. Personally, I will drop the customer. Because it's my nerves, it's nerve-wracking when there is no respect to really understand why the consultant or the consultancy is doing several things. Mm-hmm. And maybe sometimes people are not willing to let other opinions really get into their mind because they are so focused on doing things the way they ever did. So when you talk to somebody who is 25 years doing software development in an insurance company, they have their own way to go. Maybe it's good, but maybe it's not good because something changed in the organization. So then it's not the part of the consultant or the consultancy to move these people. It's actually part of the organization at itself to say, okay, be more flexible, do the stuff the others are bringing in, appreciate what they are doing because they have the knowledge. But to be honest, I had a situation like that and I dropped the client because it doesn't make sense to work with somebody who is not willing to really understand what it means or what are the differences between and so on and so on. Because in the end, they will come back normally or find someone who does the same thing to them and then say, okay, they were right because we had this in the past. We had a customer that wasn't aware and not willing to take training sessions. We don't need this. All our people are skilled enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's- It took some time, but then they bought the training and saw, okay, it was really needed because they had a problem in understanding, they had a problem in wording. So the people name things differently and don't really understand what the other person means by that. So it's also the things what we saw always when we talk with customers, because this buzzword API is so misused in these days, because in the end it's just an application programming interface, and that could be everything. So it's not quite clear what it really is. So REST is not only an API, it's some kind of an architectural standard. So it's really hard to really bring these people to the right place at some point. So that to answer the question, it depends on the customer if he wants to deal with politics and stress or drops the customer. It's really that kind of thing, because the things we do well with what we call API consulting is really on trust. People have to trust us because we do things, we did them several times. So it's not that we just invented something, we did it always with customers. This is the approach behind it. So we don't propose anything that is not be done with a customer or relates to work with customer. This is mostly important. So it's nothing that somebody was sitting in a room and had this whiteboard after him and just putting boxes together and say, okay, this is the solution. This is what we go into the market with, and this will work. So it's really related to customer challenges there.
Do you know this famous video from Steve Jobs on consultants?
Mm-hmm.
Where Steve Jobs says consultants they can't do well because they come to your company, they tell you what to do, and they will not stay long enough to see the long-term effects of the suggestions they gave. So they will never really learn, like 2 years after, what they did was actually a mistake. How do you think about that?
To be honest, API consultancy is a long-term thing. So we work with customers for for nearly 5 years with customers right now. So it's not nothing you go in and be there for 6 months and you move out. This can happen if there is a lot of understanding already and there's just the idea of getting the last bits of pieces to really get your own initiative running. This is also what we have with customers. But the normal thing is you stay as long as possible to really see what is happening behind the scenes, what is happening in the whole definition of enterprise politics and so on and so on. And this really helps you to engage and really also grow with a customer, not just to say, okay, I'm in, oh yeah, 6 months, I'm not interested anymore in this, I have to leave. This is not really working when you really do some kind of, I would say it's more related to enterprise architecture, what we do. So you need some time to see, that it really works out. So it's nothing that is placed and comes up after two weeks or something like that. It takes time.
Yeah.
That's fair. And I would tend to agree with that. It's good that you guys stay on for the long part of that journey. Jens, funny enough, I knew you were going to bring that up.
Really?
Yeah, that video, I know.
No, not in a negative way. I'm just curious about your take. I have no strong opinion on the craft in general. But okay. You mentioned REST is not just an API. Some people would say it's an architectural style or pattern, or how would you say the understanding of APIs and REST over the years has changed? Because we recently had Kevin Swiber on the stream. You probably know Kevin.
Yeah, definitely.
Also one of the known names in the API space. And he also kind of said like, in the past, when people said REST, they meant like hypermedia or something. But today, it can be anything. It can be JSON over HTTP, and he also said like it's not so important how we call the things, like, because MCP and hypermedia have actually quite a lot in common. And he's like, yeah, like the patterns are all the same. It's just a bit different, and we name things differently today. But hypermedia was never really gone. It's just, yeah, the styles they change a bit. How do you see the evolution of API styles and how people perceive REST and stuff like that?
Starting with REST, what we see, so I can totally agree with Kevin. It's really about bringing JSON over the wire. Actually, this is what we see at customers. This is something what customers also say to us. So we have a slide in our training. It's really a quote from a customer of us. Yeah, we're doing JSON over HTTP. That's the thing there, because they were promised something different. Then they did a training with us in regards of REST and open API, and then they thought, okay, this was nothing we discussed when we started this initiative. So it was really clear, okay, they're doing actually a good thing, but they're doing not what was actually the thing they wanted to have, because somebody said it to him. Because when it's coming from management and the management says REST, they don't normally know what it really means, so that there's hypermedia included and so on and so on. That's why what we did actually in the past was to setting up so-called interaction patterns, to not talk about technology, to really say, okay, I want to have resources, I want to have hypermedia. So this is one type of pattern there. Then I want to have a tunnel, which is nothing more than doing gRPC or RPC, actually, to just say, I just call a function that is somewhere else. I don't know where, but it's available. And then you have a pattern called query, where it's actually clear you want to query something. Mostly it will be GraphQL, or when it's really available and made available with the OpenAPI 3.2, I think. Then we have something with the query verb there. So it's this part. And then we have the last pattern. It's event based, because normally when we come to customers, it's always they say, yeah, we read something from the business perspective. We want to have something like they use on Facebook. I can just query and there comes this graph, blah, 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 blah. I saw this. I saw some kind of article about this. We want to have it. It was like, okay, they're talking directly about GraphQL, but not really understanding what is the benefit behind it and where it's actually should be placed. And we have the same problems or challenges with talking about events. Because when people not technical related to the stuff talk about, we use Kafka, it's wrong. When the business knows there's Kafka involved, it becomes Kafkaesque in the end. So it's really nothing a business person should know, that there is a technology in use that has a name that has nothing to do with technology, actually. They should just know, oh yeah, we're doing stuff with events. That's all. To really not have these technical discussions around this. Because of what most people oversee is when we come or talk with customers, always, we use OpenAPI. Then it's clear you want to do REST or HTTP over the wire. That's interesting. Do you use OpenAPI with every use case to describe it? Yes. Oh yeah, then you have always this. That's interesting. So it's also sometimes to really make people understand what is actually happening behind the scenes, because most people don't have this idea that things are connected together. Some people see, okay, it's a description. Okay, I can use it for everything I want. And this is really something to look at. That's why we did this things around, to make it really more clear. But with this, it's not really clear also for the business when you still talk about these interaction patterns. That's why I'm actually now looking into this capability thinking to really take something which is understandable for the business side and not still relates to technology on the other hand. But this is what is really needed there.
What do you mean by capability thinking?
Capability thinking comes out the enterprise architecture context. So you can describe a business needs with capabilities, which makes things more handy, more clear for for non-technical people to understand what this little endpoint or this little API or however we call it really does. And this is the idea behind it, to really not say, okay, we have a catalog with a lot of APIs included. Here's the endpoint / product. And then you have this standard way of describing the things, just saying, okay, we have the possibility to list all of our products, to really make it clear what is actually happening there. And when you put this on a catalog, it's quite easy for people with semantic search to search for things, because when I'm not technical, I can't really understand what is happening there. Because even in / product or product endpoint should not just list the products, can be even used for more. So this should be described quite clearly then. So this is the idea. So we are just at a beginning to just look at it and say, okay, we know this from the enterprise architecture space. It's working good to really describe capabilities and make them visible. Maybe it's a good idea to use this in the API space, also in regards of this AI thing that's coming up with MCP and A2A, because this will be more related to these type of protocols to understand what is really the intent of this endpoint, and not just doing some kind of, it could do this or it could not do this. So we use it somehow and maybe we find the right usage for that. So this is actually the idea behind this. And as I mentioned, it's at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something Lane pointed at some post on LinkedIn from me in the past days, some stuff that has to be defined and so on and so on. This is what is quite interesting, that there is a lot of interest with the people who are really deep into the topic of APIs to really make it better for people to understand, because we are still, for my opinion, not where we maybe can be to make it understandable. Because for most people, this is what we hear in the field is always, yeah, we have a management solution, problem solved. But you know it, I know it, it's not buying something and using something. If it is even having your product running somewhere, it will not solve the problem of getting the things right in the end. And this is something where we have really to look in and to really bring the people to that level, actually.
By management, you mean API management?
It could be also event management or however we call it. So in the end, we have to define what an API is. It could be also a GraphQL query or whatever. It's also some kind of interface to see the relevance. It's very, for me, it's quite hard to use this API term. So that's why I talk always about interfaces. So it's easier. It's not related to this abbreviation of being misunderstood, because maybe you meant something totally different by saying it, and it's really in the end. And management is also a big word.
Yeah.
Because nobody really defined what management of interfaces really means in the end, because there is no clear definition about it. Some people think it's about the life cycle. Some people think it's about monetizing stuff, and so on and so on.
But you know what this reminds me of, Jens? One time we were talking with a customer. We can't say the name, but a very big and important customer in the United States. And we were asking them, what kind of tools are you using? And they said everything. And I was like, what do you mean you're using everything? We have Kong, we have WSO2, we have Tyke, we have this, we have that. And I was like, or Jens was like, wait, why do you have 4 API management tools? They were like, oh, because the first one didn't solve the problem. And I was like, wait, what? And we kept going through it. And every type of API tooling you could talk about, they were using that tool. And then we asked them, what protocols are you guys supporting? Everything. And we said, like, is it from legacy and you're trying to modernize? No, we tried SOAP. Some teams build with REST. Some teams have dropped GraphQL. That's why we're talking to you guys now because of this. And it kind of like solves the point where you said in the beginning is that there isn't a tool that can solve this. From the very beginning, it was a people problem. And it's just so interesting to hear you say all that because, I have a fire drill. One sec. But Jens, take over while I do this fire drill.
Do you have to do anything?
I just have to mute my camera so it doesn't ruin the stream.
Okay, that's fine. You know, this reminds me of so what I think for me one of the coolest learnings is, so we went through this wave of GraphQL hype. Like we're slowly moving outside or expanding out of the GraphQL space because we have actually learned ourselves that APIs and GraphQL is a lot about people and process. Like for us, it took a couple of years, but even as a vendor, you can't just give people a tool. But if you start talking to people, like what are the processes? How do you actually create new APIs and these kind of things? You kind of explore that there are, like, you can give people an API gateway, but that's not the solution. And so what I found super interesting when I was right in the middle of this GraphQL wave, like a couple of years ago, there was someone like an API veteran, and he made like a funny comment that I at that time I couldn't fully grasp it. Today I look a bit different on it, and he kind of said, if you have a shitty REST API landscape and you put GraphQL on top, like, yeah, now you have a shitty thing, and you have a GraphQL. Now you can query your shitty thing. It's still a bad API layer. Problem is not solved. We've just added one more layer of complexity, and yeah, I really like your take that you really try to help people. Looking at my speaker notes, because we always have amazing speaker notes. Jacob prepares a bit. We looked into some of your blog posts, and if I look at some of the buzzwords that stand out, and also if I reflect on what I see in the community, a lot of people talking about MCP and AI, and then as they do so, and we kind of look at APIs, what everybody keeps talking about is governance and authorization, privacy, these kind of topics. So I'm curious, like from your perspective, because you know, like everybody tries to do MCP and LLM and whatever and buzzwords, and CEOs keep saying we can fire everybody because LLM will take over the world. Well, we kind of figured out that's not the reality. But from my perspective, there are a lot of really unsolved problems in the API space. Like we're not doing so great, but I would love to hear like your perspective. What are the real big issues when you go into organizations? Like where's the majority of enterprises today, and what are the real big problems?
The real big problems, they all have a gateway. And
Clip that right there. I love that.
That's the thing. A lot of customers we work with or prospects we talk to have a gateway, or they don't have a gateway, and have security issues because their APIs are not secure. But what should I use a gateway when I don't understand that there's a plugin engine into it that needs some kind of knowledge to move on, and so on and so on. It's really hard because a gateway is actually not an architectural tool, it's an infrastructure tool. That's mostly interesting because we are just talking about the network traffic we are putting through. So we moving from building something by using infrastructure, and this is since years the biggest gap we have there, and that there is a real misunderstanding what is actually needed. Also, what is about governance. Yeah, you can still impress people by presenting linting. For me, that shouldn't the newest thing. Somebody should actually know when there is just a training. This is for me the basic skill. So everybody should know that there are linters for API descriptions around, so that every API description can be linted. That there is testing, that I can test an API end to end, and so on and so on. For some people, it's also still a mind-blowing thing that's possible. So you can impress people by just having microcs running somewhere. And in the end, it's really, and we see what happens there. So we are still talking about tooling, but we are not hitting the screen by saying, okay, how to get to a good API. Yeah, a lot of people then come up with, there are the Zalando guidelines. We use them, we just copied them. So we do them. Are you Zalando? Are you Google? Are you Microsoft? So get this as an inspiration and learn from others what they did and build things on their own. So this is I think having tooling a lot, so you can have a lot of tools for everything what you want to have, and there is the problem of adaptability. So people have to understand that a situation don't normally fit to their situation what they saw somewhere else.
Yeah.
At a conference, when somebody is presenting, like a bank, their API management solution by using Akamai and every possible tool in the market available to cover this API solution, that might not be the best fit for somebody listening to it. Because they do it on different purposes. They do it because they have regulations, they have to be redundant in geography, and so on and so on and so on. But just to understand what is actually needed to provide. And maybe just use a proxy for the beginning, not the full-blown solution. Yeah, because you just want routing. Really understand what is really needed. And then from that build the things up, and not just say, okay, we start from the highest mountain possible. This makes a buy-in into this solution, into that solution, because what we do now with customers is building platforms. And platforms means to have a lot of tooling underneath the platform layer to really cover all the styles, to really cover all the things needed, but to make it not visible to the users, because they get frustrated when they really see what is happening underneath the platform. And this is really the thing there, to have too much opportunities in tooling and not understand or have, this is also one sentence I always say, we need the use cases. What use cases do you want to cover by using this integration style? Or what are your actual use cases you want to cover where you think an API, whether style could be helpful? And this is totally interesting. This is total hard for people to get there. But when you go onto the business side, it's totally easy, because the business tells you what they actually need. They want to connect with other vendors, or they want to connect with other partners in their system, or they want to get some data from somebody and enrich it, and so on and so on. But when you go onto the technical side, it's for them always hard to say, okay, what are the use cases you want to cover with the integration platform you want to build? And these are, in my opinion, the problems and the challenges we have there to really go that way down.
It almost sounds like you present the problem, but you also kind of hint the solution. Get the business people on the same table with the engineers and have the business people explain what are the capabilities needed. Not writing endpoints, not writing graphical queries, writing down capabilities in plain English, in post-its.
Whatever.
And then thinking about, okay, here are the capabilities we need. How could we implement that? Is this an event-driven architecture? Do we need a REST API for that? Do we need SDKs? Is this something we should do with the query language, but not be like, okay, here's a problem. What kind of graphical query will we build for that?
Yeah, or even just say, okay, we can just offer REST services.
Fair.
Yeah, this is the thing. Yeah, that's total to the point. To really make clear that there is conversation needed within the organization. A lot of people always argue then, yeah, we are talking with each other. Yeah, you're talking not to the point, because you don't want to understand.
Where's that gap? Why, like, it's so easy. Why can't you bring the stakeholders together?
They don't want to. Sometimes.
Or
sometimes you don't know who are the real stakeholders are. You find them over time, so you don't know really who are the real. I had a conversation with a customer today where there was a sentence like, we don't have any business people involved in this.
Yikes.
It's just backend.
One of my concerns there, though, that I've kind of seen in the API space is, and I want to know from your experience if you've also seen this, they know it's a problem, they want to fix it, but they either don't have the time, or it's not at the very bottom of their to-do list, or quite frankly, we've seen it, they just don't care. It doesn't generate business revenue, but they just don't care.
Yeah. And the interesting fact is there is no tool to solve this.
No tool yet.
No tool yet. Yeah. Maybe AI or something related to that has then the opportunity to solve this by bringing all the informations together and just say, okay, these are the things we need because the business side requested this, and then makes it clear for the engineers what to do then. Maybe this will happen somewhere in the future, but in the end, it's the old problem of building software solutions in companies.
It's requirements engineering.
Yeah, it's
always.
requirements engineering. Yeah.
Jens, you seeing it? Yeah.
No, but you know, and this is something we've been thinking a lot about. Is it you know, and I think it's actually we're moving in the direction with like LLMs can really help there, because I think you need a map from people to requirements to capabilities, and you somehow need to wire this up and make it searchable and need to be able to say, you know, also like one of the things we see missing in a lot of companies is they have APIs, but they don't know why. Nobody knows why this exists because there's no link between my REST API endpoints and the capabilities that I actually wanted to have, because nobody ever wrote it down. And so you end up with what people then call like API sprawl or whatever. You have this large landscape of APIs and nobody knows what it does and why it exists. And a lot of APIs are undocumented. And like if you're extremely lucky, you find a company where they have put some services into backstage, but then it's not properly documented what each service does. So yeah, you have this whole mess, and everybody's talking about, I read this a while ago. If we have a service and we don't understand it anymore, why it exists and how it works, then we call it legacy. And if you and this is something interesting someone said about wipe coding. If you wipe code a service and you don't know how it works and what it does, then it's actually legacy from the start. But
Yeah.
Which is a segue into the last topic we can cover, because we're almost at the hour and we want to respect your time. But with your experience, from your perspective, what's changing with AI?
Maybe this not what people expect, that it helps us to build better APIs, because this is a long-term process, because the LLM has to learn from good APIs that are in an organization. But maybe the AI can really underline the process you described, actually, to really solve the things that you have. This demand processes made more clear, because it's more searchable and easy to detect what people really want, and not just be placed somewhere in a confluence where nobody really reads it. It's really capable of, okay, I can search for it. I can search for the department I'm in. What are the capabilities they want to have this year? Written in human natural language and really clear. Okay, then you need maybe somebody or the AI to make clear what this capability really means in technology or not, or it's really something. It will be a helper. So it will be a helper to really build or establish a good API culture in the organizational environment. This is what I see there, but for me it's still in the beginning. And just looking at this MCP right now and this hype around this, it's not really reflecting what is actually needed, because people are still suffering on the data. They're still suffering on the APIs they already have. So maybe they have a sprawl. So why should they then have an MCP to make then 1,000 APIs available by one call or something? Don't know. But in the end, it's really about bringing things together and maybe underline the development process of APIs to whatever style they are. This is also something mostly important to really, and maybe be a helper of deciding what is the best style for this, what is meant as a capability. Because the LLM has learned, and we don't have to reflect on people who are not with us in the company anymore. We can really reflect on what is there for a long time, actually.
One workflow I really like about tools like Claude Code, for example, is planning mode. And I can definitely think of, in the broader scope of thinking about capabilities and all this kind of stuff, I think LLMs can be an excellent co-pilot in helping people be really crisp in what they need, and it can help you with prompting and summarizing, and hey, is this really what you want? And it can give you like a playbook to come to good requirements, and then it can help people summarize requirements. You can have like a vector search, where you can search across all requirements and find similar requirements, and then you can see, oh, someone wants to build something, but actually last year someone else wanted to have a similar capability. Maybe we can bring the people to the same table and discuss what they are trying to do.
Yeah, this is really the things to really make it worth to use AI, and not just for the purpose again of technology. Or somebody told you, or you saw something. It's really about, okay, this is bringing value, because as you mentioned, I can really search and see, oh, somebody else had the idea. which is actually totally simple to have an idea board or a capability board to just say, but even this is what I see hard for people to understand, that there are so many easy ways to really solve the problems we have. Because having some kind of a board is just like having a GitHub repository with some kind of issue tracker and just say, okay, I want to have this. And then somebody can step in and say, okay, somebody already requested it, I want to have it too. So it's sometimes so simple, but it's not done or adopted for a process in building these things, because everything what we do relies on integration in the end. And for me, it sometimes looks like that there's a split between integration and API. So API is something mystique, quite of popular, but in the end, it delivers integration. But people always don't use this term because it's not so fancy, so shiny in that place. So this is what I see actually there.
Yeah.
Jens,
Okay,
real quick,
last question.
I was going to
Sorry.
say one more before David's question. Daniel, what's the craziest thing you've heard when you went in to talk with the customer? Whether it's like, oh, we don't do this or that or whatever, but like, what's a story that stays at the top of your head? Like, wow, this company is crazy. Do you have one like that?
Yeah, I have one like that. There was an API built with R.
R.
I don't say anymore.
Like R, like as in, I feel like I used R in college, just kind of for like.
Yeah, you use it for statistics and
yeah.
And there are some libraries where you can build APIs on.
And this was like a big company, like legitimate company.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty good.
And the last thing I say to this, it's the most used API there.
Oh god.
Seems to be valuable.
Yeah. But
I like that.
It's crazy from the perspective of, so you can use every framework to build APIs.
Yeah.
But by the way, you mentioned one thing, like this whole focus on technology, and I think and you mentioned the bank at the conference and how other people tried to copy that. I think this is unfortunately one of the big reasons why the graphical ecosystem got such a big hit, because I think a lot of people applied GraphQL when they didn't need it, and they later on figured out it's not solving my problem, and a lot of people, I think it's kind of unfair. A lot of people are upset with GraphQL. I think they never really understood it, or they didn't need it, and there are very good use cases for GraphQL, and it's a great technology, but I think in the early days it was completely overused.
Yeah, it was there. It was like as always, it was like a hype.
Yeah,
it's the same with it's the same with REST. There's still this I wouldn't say hype phase, because it's so easy to build REST APIs. Full stop. And when you have a hype, it's the same with these event-based stuff. There was a really big hype. There's still a hype, because everybody wants to be event-driven still, even if they don't know what it really means in the end to be event-driven, or what for impacts you have there. So there's always this relation to technology there, but it's not how do I solve the challenges, the capabilities of the business or of my business to really bring value to my company. It's still this.
These days it's MCP.
Yeah, it's MCP. In these days it's MCP. The next wave, actually we don't know. It will be A2A or something, or another crazy framework coming up and being the solver of every problem existing. So there's always this kind of cycle.
Yeah.
The story behind MCPs is so weird, because if you look into it, some people build tools, IDEs to code, and they needed a way to bring in information into the context. So they built a solution to attach context through tools. And then they were like, this is, we could actually make it open source, and we could allow other people to extend the context through HTTP or RPC. And then they kind of wrote down the protocol, and now suddenly, and this is something I kind of feel like, now that I went through this GraphQL hype, I now kind of see that everybody's now trying to use this MCP solution and figures out what kind of problems could we solve. But nobody, like in our customer base, it's very rarely that people are like, we really, really need MCP. It's more like some developers, they are like, MCP could be cool. But if you look from the business side, like the business people, nobody's really asking for MCP. It's they have different problems, and it currently really feels like solution looking for problem.
Yeah, it's always you need a solution to solve the problem, but you don't have a methodology to really solve the problem there behind. So
I think in the end we will figure out like that there will be some problems that MCP is amazing at solving, but I think we will first burn a couple of billions in VC funding for things that absolutely make no sense. And then at some point, like I think like LLMs in general, they have great applicability. Like there are super cool use cases like summarizing and all kind of workflows and reading stuff and also helping in writing. Like LLMs are cool, but yeah, for MCP, I think we're extremely hard in searching for problems.
That's fair. And then Daniel, I know we are a little bit over, but do you have time for one more question from the audience?
Yeah, one more question, and then I have to leave.
Okay, last question. So this one comes from David. He's on our team. Interesting. He never says the word real talk, but let's read the question anyways. Daniel, real talk. Can you see in the next 6 months or year a boom in business for consultancies fixing the mess that AI and vibe coding are creating today? It's a great question. Real talk.
Short answer, no.
Interesting. If you're able to expand, and then we'll let you go. If not, we can save it for another episode another time.
Because the boom not ended, so we are still somehow in this business acquirement of using the whole thing. And fun fact, it brings value to the people. So it's really, really something strange, because people will not see that there is a problem, because they even solved another problem not so far, the bad quality of data they already have at a company. And if they don't see this by using technologies that do stuff with things available, I don't see it, because most people are too prominent with it to really hype the things further, and there will be some kind of crash, maybe next year or the year after, when initiatives went totally wrong. But for now, everything is fine. Everybody wants to build agents. Everybody wants to build their software with vibe coding, and no big things happened so far.
But I think there's a good reason why it is like that. You can increase your data quality or your API strategy, and that will, to some degree, improve the business. But what leaders are currently looking at is, can we quickly spend some money on AI and get fast returns? That is what everybody's now trying to do. And one interesting observation, we see this in our company, but also in research, this whole shebang around AI coding and LLM coding, we kind of figured out, and I think more and more people realize, as a developer, you can use AI to write code, it doesn't necessarily make you faster. It doesn't necessarily increase the quality. It gives you, it allows you to be a little bit more lazy, but the results are kind of negligible. So you can use cursor, you can also not use it. Vibe coding doesn't work. We have figured this out. And what we see in our team, like for example, David on the stream, we did an experiment. We wanted to migrate some very complex code, and he tried to use AI. And then he said, yeah, I had to review every little thing because I cannot trust this. So in the end, we were asking like, was it really worth it? And he was like, actually, we could use it. We could also not use it. It's like it's not making us 50% faster. Like the AI boom is not there.
It's in the end, it's what I always say is, you can use it if you are an expert in this, what you want to achieve with AI. So if you know all the things around it, and then you can see how this is really moving up, because there's a lot of trick technology for me involved by using something like ChatGPT and all the other things around. Because when you ask to draw a picture with specific libraries, and then you say, okay, by using the library, create me an PNG or JPEG or whatever, it always uses Python in the background, because it knows Python best. And this is really something to see there. So they actually, these things, or the AI doesn't really know all the programming languages. It's sometimes really thinking about stuff, finding somewhere and just putting the things together. Normally it doesn't really work good, or not as expected, or as David said, I have to review it. Yeah, I have to review everything I do with this, and even if I want to pimp it up and so on, it will work at some point, but at another point it will just not work. So it's, in the end, it's really something what I say, or I see in the API space, nobody is really doing important business stuff with it. So writing open APIs in a regulated business context or something like that. When this will happen, we will find out how it really works, and maybe then there is the time to fix the mess that happens actually, and say, okay, this is not working, so we should end it here.
Okay, Daniel, that was a very insightful session today. Thank you for joining us. Stefan, you know what the good thing is?
The good thing is we're back next week. So guys, thanks so much for joining us today, Daniel. It was a pleasure. We will let you go, but we'll be sending up snippets of this on LinkedIn. Feel free to reshare, because this really was an insightful episode, and we'll be back next week. Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you.
Thank
See
you.
you. Bye.